Hey folks, good morning. Happy Saturday. Welcome to day 4, Julius Baer Generation Cup, Division 2 Champions Chess Tour. You're watching on Chess Dojo Live. Hopefully everyone is having a good day so far. We are just getting started here. We've got a winners final. And whoa, just as I was introducing the game, winners final, Artemiev with the exchange sack on the board. Rook takes f3, queen d7, pure positional sacrifice here. And yeah, this game is definitely off to a hot start. We also have a couple matches in the losers division. Basim Amen, he's playing Yakubov, and Aronian is playing against Alexeyev. So we'll be keeping an eye on those matches as well. A lot of chess coming up today. A lot of chess. Got these matches here. Then the losers bracket will have to come up with a challenger. And yeah, it's going to be fun. So Artemiev here just sacrificed the exchange against Nepo. This is game 1 of their 4-game match. And the winner will advance to the winner's final. Or the overall final, excuse me. This is the winner's final. The winner advances to the tournament final, where they will then play the winner of the losers bracket. So losers bracket, of course, still yet to be determined. And whoever loses this match is actually going to play another match later against the winner of the losers matches. So we could be seeing Aronian Artemiev later again, rematch today. Could be seeing Nepo Aronian if Artemiev wins this match. So yeah, could be some very, very big matchups here. And what's on the line is qualification for Division 1. Getting back to the main event. So Nepo here spent some time, finally takes on d5, goes d4. He's looking to open up the rooks. That makes sense. Let's just quickly bounce back, see how we got here. This was Italian game. Knight c3. Nepo playing one of the many, many different systems available to white today. Should take c5, queen b3, rook e1, and yeah, Artemiev decided to sacrifice the exchange. And to me, it feels like a very reasonable exchange sacrifice because, especially for rapid chess, speed chess, white's king is now kind of weakened for the long run. And here, actually, Nepo kind of helps black with ed, opening up the queen on the h3 square. I guess he also wants to have some targets for his queen, but just found that interesting. d4, rook f8. Now, yeah, a lot of stuff is kind of hanging in white's position. Black is definitely hoping to one day get this knight to d4, try to get that knight to f3. That would be huge. But it's super, super sharp. And of course, it's an exchange up for white. So nothing is going to be easy here for black. King g2 definitely comes to mind just right now. But of course, then after e takes d4, it's not obvious what white's follow-up is going to be. Don't really see Nepo taking this one and opening up the bishop. Then rook takes f3 comes into play. Queen takes h3. This knight is going to hang. That could be a problem for white. Yeah, so Nepo thinking here had to deal with this position. It doesn't seem fun for white, does it? Pawns are hanging. Black's piece is just incoming. So king g2, e takes d4. And then how to continue there from white. Really, really not clear. Hey, Charlie. Hey, Sensei. How you guys doing? Oof. Very, very tricky spot here for Nepo. Okay, in the meantime, we have Aronian Alexeyev. And here, Levon Big time advantage. Position, though, still seems relatively balanced. Equal material. Black has nice active rook on f4. White's king still uncastled. So Aronian played this one very, very aggressively, it seems, leaving his king on e1. But it's not clear what he's actually achieved in the position. A few points away from graduating. That's awesome. So this is game 1 of 2. Right, queen d3. Yeah, I feel like White's king eventually is going to have to go queenside here. But even then, Black will have counterplay. a4 will come. Of course, f2 might hang. We also have this game between Yakubov and Basimamin. And oh man, big time advantage for White here too. Basimamin, 9 minutes on the clock. He's played his usual King's Indian attack setup where he puts all the pieces on the king side and just goes for checkmate. He's very, very good at this, I gotta say. He's very good at mating his opponents. Right now, his position looks fantastic. In fact, I feel like he's thinking about g5 and could definitely play it. Actually, no. I think g5 here would be a little bit too early. If we just look at all the captures, the problem is when White's knight takes, Black come in with knight takes d4. So either right away or trading on g5 first. So not sure he can really get away with g5. So he just goes rook e1, continuing to build up the position, getting ready maybe to go bishop to d3, double rooks on the g file. Even White has plans of tripling on the g file. Rook g3, rook eg1, rook 1 g2, queen g1, and then g5. And then Black resigns. If White gets all those moves in and knight g4, then yeah, it's just completely, it's just like the most number of pieces you'll ever see in the attack. So yeah, bishop a6, Black is just not going to let that happen. He's going to trade off the bishops here. White takes, rook takes. And now I feel like we're going to see rook g3, rook g1. This pileup makes a lot of sense. It would also make sense for White to reinforce the d pawn here. But yeah, this feels like a very promising position for Amin. He's this is kind of like the bread and butter for him, and it looks like he's doing well. Okay, he's thinking about it. Let me keep an eye on the other games. And oh yeah, these games are really heating up. Let's jump back to Nepo Artemiev. We got some updates here. How did Nepo deal with this? So he did go king g2. Queen f7 from Artemiev. I was expecting e takes d4, but he starts with this one. And Artemiev yesterday, he won a number of nice games against Aronian, just playing on the increment with like 1 minute on his clock, 30 seconds on his clock. He played some just incredible moves with little time. f4. Definitely some attempt here by Nepo to mess with Black's coordination. Decides to take with the pawn. I'm not sure what would have happened on queen. Oh, queen takes f4, then queen takes d5 check, of course. So pawn takes. Knight goes back to h1. And then knight e7. Interestingly, Nepo doesn't take, or Artemiev doesn't take the opportunity to go f3 check, because that would allow White's knight back into the game. That would give back the g3 square. So knight e7. He's just playing for domination. f3. Knight comes to f5. Rook f2. Knight e3 check. King h2. Queen h5. Rook g1. Rook f5. This is the live board. Rook g4. Nepo desperately trying to defend here. Offering the exchange back. Because Black was threatening, guys, queen takes h3 and rook h5 mate on the last move. Tricky Artemiev threatening a mate. So rook g4 defends. He could take, but then White recaptures and actually wins material. So he's not actually giving back the exchange. Queen went to f7. Now Black is threatening to take this rook. So let's see if Nepo keeps it on g4. He does. He goes rook e2. So yeah, now he's really willingly giving back the exchange. But what he wants is to just totally fix his king, get his knight back into f2. And the problem for Black actually is this bishop is very much out of the game right now. It's just biting on total granite. And without a move like c5, Black is not going to be able to get this bishop back in. So at some point he has to play this, but obviously the bishop is hanging, so it's very hard to do. Oh, did I go quiet? Yeah, sometimes no, I'm just watching the game or I'm doing a quick thing on the side. But yeah, we're very much still into it. Like right now, checking on some stuff. Yeah, very tough position. Knight f2, rook e6, Artemiev, 25 seconds. He does not want to touch this rook on g4. He likes this knight on e3 too much. Maybe he's going to be looking to harass it with some h5. King g1, Nepo improving the position. 10 seconds for black. Artemiev, such a beast in these time scrambles, but Nepo's also pretty fast. Okay, king h8. Just improving the position. I do like that he put his rook on e6 because that actually allows him now to play c5. The bishop is defended. Probably he was thinking about c5, but for whatever reason decides against it. White does have knight d3 in the position, which is going to be annoying to face. Just going after this pawn, planting the knight on e5. Knight d3 looks very, very logical right now. Also stopping the c5 break too. Oh, we got some changes. Queen d5 finally takes on g4. Rook straight, hg, king j, king f1. Now we have queen versus knight here. Material is kind of stabilized. 2 seconds for Artemiev. Although he does have an extra pawn in the position. So it's really hard to say who is better here. Black has the extra material, but white has this positional grip. Obviously, big advantage on the clock. But watch out for h5. Queen h3 with some count. It's just so hard for black to get this bishop in. Like, what do you do with this guy? This queen on b5 is stopping any c5s because you can probably just take it at some point. But black's going to have to think about this kind of idea. Maybe going for queen endgame. b4. Oh, a5. Nepo pushing hard. Oh, and Artemiev, he has to sack the piece because he has no time. Takes. c2. Queen c5. This pawn's under control, though. And Nepo, what a crafty way to just win the piece and win the game. But queen takes c2 right now. Looks like money. If queen takes d4, you can take on c7 or on g6. And wow. Well played by Nepo. Very, very tricky here. And now I think he's winning. I mean, he has knight for... It is 3 pawns for black, but this knight is very strong. White's king is going to be super safe on h3, for example. And yeah, there he goes. Just going for the mate. Artemiev resigns because now it's actually just simple mate here. After queen d4, we have queen f7. Sorry, queen f8 check. Queen f8 check here, and then knight g6 mate. Wow, what a finish by Nepo. Wow. This b4 move, oh, this was hard to meet in time trouble. Because you're threatening to take, the bishop has very few squares, and then after takes, a5. What to do here if you're black? If the bishop moves, white's taking here, and this guy's still caught. This is hanging with check. So black's pawn is again never going anywhere. Because its queen is too active. Wow, b4. b4, very strong find by Nepo to win game 1. So he's taking a 1-point lead in this match. Artemiev will have a couple games here to bounce back. And they're going to be starting their game 2 soon. Okay, in the meantime, Basim Amen, he also won the first game. Let's just quickly review what happened here. This was the King's Indian attack, and he played rook g3, as expected. Black tried to block things up, but white was able to win a pawn. And managed to convert this endgame. Really not the easiest position to convert, but yeah, got a couple pawns here, and rook takes a4. Wow, won everything. Won everything and ended up with 3 extra pawns. Yakubov resigns. Yakubov will have to bounce back and win on demand in this second game here with a pretty wild position, I gotta say, because these are 2-game matches, so he's on the brink of elimination. And in the meantime, Aronian or Alexeyev, they're still on their game 1, and they're in some kind of time scramble. What is happening? Looks like equal material. Black just offered a queen trade with queen f5. And optically looks like black is totally fine here. I don't really see an edge for white. If anything, this g-pawn might be a little loose in the endgame. But I think it should be close to equal. Aronian decides to keep the queens on the board. Queen g3, but rook g7. This could get very risky for white. He does have rook e5. Queen f1 check, king h2. The king can hide, but, well, what about just queen takes b2? Ooh, Aronian, he's taking some huge risk here, allowing black to snag this pawn. b3 is now hanging, and g6, yeah, he's going for the attack. But what's the idea? Rook takes g6, rook g5, queen c2. Black is kind of defending everything. Trades on g6, c-pawn is hanging. So next he's going to go queen takes c7. Grab that pawn. And he's got rook g3 as a threat. King h8, Alexeyev defending nicely. Queen e5 check, he can block. Levon, he does have the knight on the king side. So that does give white some pressure here. But 1 second, yeah, he has to make a move. Queen f6. We keep the queens on the board. Rook h5, okay. Allowing the endgame where black has an extra pawn. But he's going to win it back on a5. So this one feels like it should peter out into a draw. But we can keep watching. So this is still the losers brackets, and this is not the losers final yet. In fact, this is the losers quarterfinal. So after this match, the winner is going to play the winner of Amin Yakubov. The winner of that's going to be the loser's semifinal, but the winner of that then plays the loser of Artemiev Nepo to get to the overall final. It is a bit tricky. I've been confused myself, but I think we're gonna get everything. We're gonna get through it. Yeah, right now Nepo versus Artemiev is the winner's final. Exactly. Okay, things did peter off, and Levon managed to get himself into rook and knight against rook endgame. This one, I gotta say, is a pretty straightforward draw for the rook. This is a lot easier to hold than holding with rook against rook and bishop, even though both endgames are theoretically drawn with best play. The rook and knight, they have a much harder time actually coordinating and setting up real threats. And so defending this one is much, much easier than defending the rook and bishop. You almost never see grandmasters or title players losing this endgame, whereas you do see really strong players, title players, elite level players losing rook and bishop against rook all the time, because that one is actually quite hard to hold against someone who's pushing very hard. But yeah, folks, if you ever run into this situation where you have the rook against the rook and knight, definitely don't have any fear, because it's really hard for white to it's really hard to lose this. In fact, like, even if the king is pushed to the back rank and white cuts off the king with the rook and the king gets in position, unless your rook is just terribly out of place, you almost always have like a simple way to defend the position and not get mated. But the key strategy for the most part is to just keep the rook far and away from white's king, so that you can always give checks from behind. You can always give checks from the side if you need. You can always pin the knights. And yeah, the rook is just very, very flexible on this a1 square. So I definitely think Alexeyev is going to hold this one without any particular difficulties. So let's expect this one to be a draw. If something happens, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, they're going to end pretty soon anyway. They're just playing on 3-second increments. Game 2 between and Yakubov is pretty interesting. I just want to go through the opening here because it feels like it was a very exciting one. Bishop e2, castles, bishop e3. Amin playing the King's Indian defense, and Yakubov going for this bishop e2, bishop e3 setup, which is very trendy these days because it allows white to push on the king side, h4, g4. So there he goes, h4, e5, h5. Very aggressive, very aggressive. Takes, rook e8, h6. Really shutting in that pawn. Very much playing for the alpha 0 pawn with this one. Bishop h8, f3, knight b4, queen d2, a5, and bishop f2, a4. Now on the board. So a3, playing rather quickly. A3 is a very committal move because it does fix the b3 square as kind of a weakness in the long term. Oh, question about knight takes e4 and bishop takes d4. Yeah, let's go back. I'm just curious. Let's take a look. So here, here, before a5. Oh, this was in the position. Takes. Knight takes e4. Yeah, this definitely had to be checked. So takes, bishop takes d4. Of course, if queen takes d4, we have knight c2 check. So chat was saying a3 here is the issue. But a3, the knight can go back. Knight c6. Maybe knight takes e4. Maybe that's why. And then knight on b4 hangs. So bishop takes d4, just queen takes here. But yeah, that was definitely, this is a very important shot to look for. I'm sure Amin was looking at this one. And chat saying Aronian won. Guys, how is this possible? Unbelievable. He won the game. Levon Aronian, he won. I spent like 2 minutes talking about how this is an easy draw and GMs don't lose this. What happened? What, I mean, it is over here. This looks over. If rook b1 check, black lost on time because if rook b1 check, white goes knight b5, and then there's actually no defense to rook g8 checkmate. But yeah, why is the king on a8? If the king was on b8, then you would be able to give check, knight b5, king c8, and black escapes very easily. So how did this happen? Levon, tricky. So okay, king was on the back rank. Here black is still holding. Easy draw, easy draw. Now white gives check, goes king a8. I don't think that was necessary. I think king a6 here, and black is still totally fine. But king a8, okay. Knight d6. Rook came down. King b6. And this is where you go king b8, and you're totally fine. You're totally fine because you'll always have a rook check from behind. So he goes rook here. And that's it. Rook g3. Levon found a way to win it. Wow. Wow. Okay. Tricky Levon, but he wins a huge point, and now Alexeyev is in a must-win situation in this game too. And that's brutal. That's brutal. Of course, it was time pressure. Yeah, I mean they're playing on 3 seconds increment, but that said, the end game is sturdy enough that I really expected Black to hold it. I mean he's a very strong player, of course. So, and I'm sure he's disappointed that he lost it. Yeah, brutal, brutal. Could White have just played, or Black have just played b7? I'm not sure which piece to b7. But yeah, definitely that one should have been held by Alexeyev. King b7. Yeah, the king just needs to stay out of the corner. I mean, that's the one way you kind of get mated in this situation, as we just saw. Brutal, brutal. But hey, that's what happens in these blitz games. Yeah. Okay, we have game twos on the way. So this is game two here. Alexeyev must win situation. Yakubov here must win situation. And I mean, Basimaman, he's playing like he's in the must win. What? Look at this. So knight c6, knight h3, knight a5, of course, going after the weaknesses. Queen c2, bishop e6. White snagged this pawn. Now b5. Holy smokes. The man is playing with violence. Absolute violence. What a break. And white just needs like a move to get the king out, but even if you castle, there's going to be takes on h3, and white's king isn't going to feel super safe on the king side either. So this feels like Basimaman is doing great. The knight is of course hit. If you move the knight, then black is going to take on c4, but probably that's what you have to do because I don't really see an option here after takes bishop b3. That looks like white's just losing a full piece on the spot. So yeah, very hard to make this work for white. So knight c3 played. Now black is going to have the choice how to take on c4. Could take with the pawn to take some space, but can also use the opportunity to bring the knight in. He goes bishop takes h3. Wow, trading off for white's knight and either weakening the king or forcing white to give up the castling rights. He decides to give up the castling rights. Now black goes bc. And yeah, very double-edged position here. Equal material, but a lot of imbalances. White has the two bishops. Black has a very nice bishop on h8, I would say, like the strongest minor piece on the board. White has this h6 pawn, but the king is also in the middle. We're going to need Silman here fast if we want to evaluate this position. I mean, we need Silman. We need Eugene Perelstein and Nate Solon. We need all the big dogs here to try and evaluate this one. This is tough. This is not easy. Not easy to judge what's going on here. Okay, rook d1. But yeah, Yakubov definitely needing to win this one. What's up, folks? We got Pooh Bear, Renga, Bad Finishers, Head of Dog. We got everybody in the chat. Pooh Bear, yes, actually we are looking for a host tomorrow if you're still available. We need Peter Lyko here. Yeah, to evaluate the position. Yes, well, I'm sure he would think that it's a big fight and very dynamic. Knight d7. Oh man, I mean, yeah, of course I'm a King's Indian player, but I do really like Black's position because it's kind of hard to play this as White. You have a hard time moving any pawns without creating new weaknesses. Black has a lot of targets in the position, especially like this B pawn is annoying to defend. Now knight d7, Black wants to go like knight e5, knight c5. A lot of squares here for the Black pieces. Okay, so Yakubov, he has his work cut out for him. Let's check in game 2, Nepo Artemiev. So Nepo won the first game in basically basically finding a fantastic resource in Artemyev's time trouble. Although I think even with more time, it might have been just very difficult for black to defend that position. This one is a Nimzo. Let's just quickly run it back. Got the Nimzo Indian, bishop b4, queen c2. Very theoretical line. White spends a lot of time here to get the two bishops, but doesn't have to weaken the structure at all. But of course, this also means that white is going to be very much behind in development here. So these positions can be tricky to play for both sides. So takes. This line is very, very solid for black. Super theoretical. Bishop a6, queen a4, bishop h4, queen to d7, offering the endgame. White declines, c5. Bishop takes f6, gf takes, and now queen e7. Yeah, these positions are very, very sharp. I'm sure both players are still kind of following their preparation here, something they've looked at before. Here, Nepo made this critical move c5, which, yeah, I think this is not the kind of move you make without being extremely well prepared. Because not only you're allowing like d takes c5, like white just grabbing a pawn, you're allowing bishop takes f6, white just ruining the king side, but the point here for black is that white just doesn't have any development, and so black's king on g7 is actually not going to be that unsafe in the short term. In the long run, of course, if white is able to develop, then that can be a problem, but black's point is that black is going to be developing here very quickly. Knight c6, rooks come to c8, d8, and so on. So Nepo or Artemyev takes on f6. He also takes on c5, grabbing a pawn. Queen e7 played. Queen e7 is surprising. I definitely would have expected queen c7 with the pin. But queen e7 feels completely playable as well, just because black is so ahead in development. And here Artemyev does decide to take another pawn, so he's kind of accepting Nepo's pawn sacrifice here. Nepo still playing very quickly, as is his usual style. Rook c8. And yeah, at a certain point, he's probably going to take this pawn back on b6. Black will be down a pawn on the queen side, but with lots of development to show for it. So definitely not super clear what is the evaluation of this position either. But from a human point of view, of course, this is quite unpleasant to play for white. Like your king is on e1. You got no development here. The entire, right side of the board has just been frozen for white. And this is one of those like don't try this at home kind of things, because it's like, yeah, this is very, very hard to play. It's playable, but hard to play. Hard to play. Okay, queen b3. Artemyev, he's going down into his usual time trouble. Every game I've seen him, he's just like down 8 minutes on the clock, down 10 minutes, down 9 minutes. Vladislav just don't care, guys. He just don't care. He's just going to use his time, and then once he's in his time pressure, he's just focused. He's just in the zone. He just calculates nonstop like a machine, and he still just plays extremely well. But Nepo showed that Artemyev is not infallible in that time pressure stage. So got to be very careful here. Yeah, unfortunately, as it usually goes, it's not a simple position. Exactly right. Okay, e4. Artemiev makes the move he should have made on move one. E4, finally developing the king side. Black is going to take on f1. I'm sure king takes f1 is pre-moved here for white. And then maybe we'll see rook b8. Black will get the pawn back, and it's still going to be very precarious because white is going to have to make sure that black doesn't win the game on the queen side before it's too late. Are we on Chess TV? We are getting featured on the event page of this tournament on Division 2. So we're a little bit, it's a shared embed, if that makes sense. So uh, we are on Chess TV for some people. We're on the embed, but I don't know if we're on the Chess TV. Chess TV. I would assume that's reserved for the main broadcast. Yeah, it's been a quiet show. I feel like people are kind of enjoying just watching, just watch, which is totally fine. I kind of I kind of like just watching when it comes to commentary as well. I'm not usually one to like. I'd rather just watch and listen, and look at the game. Just, yeah, it doesn't even have to. It doesn't even have to be talking for me. I'm happy if it's just someone watching the game and just saying stuff every once in a while. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are just watching from the embed as well. But let's keep it on topic though. Let's keep it on topic because we do wanna follow this event closely. Nepo here, ton of time. He's now thinking about it. I wonder what he's thinking about. Bishop takes f1 felt like an automatic move to me. You just trade and yeah, force white. Maybe he was thinking about. Oh, that's what he was. He was wondering what he's gonna do after Artemiev plays b7. Well, there we go. That moment went a bit unnoticed, but that's what was happening after e4. Artemiev was winning the exchange, distracting the bishop to get this b7 move in, where he could take on g2, but then bishop takes g2 would have ran into queen g3 check, trap of the season, and then let's say king goes somewhere. First you take, you make a queen, black has to recapture, and then you take the bishop, and white would be up a full rook. So very nicely calculated by Artemiev there. Black has to drop back. Now he takes, rook takes, and it's an extra exchange for white, but he can't castle. The position is still not very fun to play. F3. Black is going to have a lot of counterplay here. Rook b8, queen c5. Oof. Okay, queen g3 check. Starts with this one. King h7, queen d6. Well, it makes a lot of sense for white to try to trade the queens off, and he's hitting the knight on b7. So, feeling kind of tough for black to really generate counterplay. Maybe queen b7, queen b5 is an idea, but rook c8 would allow the queen trade. Yeah, Pooh Bear, great. I think we are looking for a host. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind. So if you can only do it until 10:30, obviously that's not ideal if it goes past that. Um, but yeah, let's talk later today, and we can figure it out for sure. Yeah. Okay, black to play. I have a feeling Nepo doesn't trade queens here. Right, queen b7, queen e8 was also possible. But queen b7, queen d7, Artemiev, he's ready. Threatening f7 and the queen. Oh, and Nepo, he was just boom. He's like, all right, let's go. Do your worst, boss. Do your worst. Man, Nepo just going absolutely nuclear here. He's allowing queen takes f7. He's allowing rook d7. But he's saying that he's going to have enough counterplay with queen c1 check, queen c3 check. And he might be right. But what about queen takes c6? This knight is hanging as well? What's the wait, what's the plan here? Because e2 is covered. There's no queen e2 checkmate. So why can't Artemiev take this horse? Queen takes a3. So Nepo just sacrificing a full rook. Look at this. Holy smokes. And he's just saying that you're not going to be able to defend this position, but I don't know. I mean, it's a rook. h4, rook h3. I mean, white can develop here. Black is starting queen b4 check right now, so this really isn't easy for white. Maybe queen c1. Try to get the queen back. By the way, rook is also hanging, but then black has a perpetual. Queen c3, queen c1. Knight e2. Artemiev developing, and rook c8. Nepo playing fast. He knows his only chance is to play quickly here and put pressure on the clock, because I think it's probably not enough for black. Queen d6 now. Queen d7. Can Nepo find something here? Queen b4 check. Play queen to d2. Queen d2, rook c2. Queen d2, rook c2. That was his big trick. Rook c2. Ah, what a tricky guy. And then takes, and then he goes here, and then okay, still it's or even here, and actually black can make a draw. Anyway, we got to get to the game. Queen b4 check, king f1, king g7. Just calm prophylactic move. Nepo playing like he's not just down a full rook. And now king g1, Artemiev. 3 seconds on the clock. He's still seeing all the tactics. Takes. Keeps an extra exchange. Can Artemiev get his king out? 4 seconds on the clock. He goes h4. Queen takes e4. Now time for rook h3. But queen e1 check. Queen takes f2. Nepo getting so many pawns. I feel like Nepo has completely survived this position and might now be playing for the win after check and queen takes. No, sorry. There's going to be king h2, rook g3. Black gets mated on g8. Hold on. You can't go queen e1, queen takes f2. Rook g3, check, queen g8. That said, black has a lot of pawns. Just has to deal with this threat. Is there a way to save the king? Ooh, it's not easy. Rook g3 and f3 is coming. Black's king in a world of danger, and the longer Nepo thinks, the longer Artemiev has time to think and figure it out for himself. So Nepo has to make a move fast. Maybe bishop h5, bishop g6, only way. But then rook g3 check and h5. Uh-oh. Yeah-oh. Yeah, this is gonna be an uh-oh for me. I'm not seeing a move here for black. I mean, you gotta keep thinking about what to do. Rook g3, and then either queen g8, or if you go f5, king f6. King, then there's queen d8 check, queen takes d1. You can guarantee Artemiev has already seen this. It's game over. Artemiev might still be winning after all that. Wow, what a defense. What a defense. So f5, bishop g4, maybe that's a try. Yeah, because then there's f3, but f3 black will have like queen f4 or something, some queen move. King h2. I feel like you're kind of losing the bishop though. Like f5 check here, and then next move king h2 to defend the rook, and then eventually the bishop is gone. Oh boy, very tough, very tough. Yeah, it's always hard when your opponent is playing on the increment. How much time should you spend thinking, giving them a chance to breathe, versus how much time you should try to, or whether you should try to just play quickly and put some pressure. A lot of it depends on just the objective value of the position. Like if your position is good, then you shouldn't be playing quickly in general. And you should just be taking all the time you need to find the best moves. But if the position is very murky, then it might be smart. Then you might have to try to pull a fast one. I don't see how black's winning this. I mean, rook g3 is a huge threat right now, followed by queen g8. Material-wise, black is doing well, but how do you deal with this threat? And I think if Nepo found something, he would have played it. So yeah, I think the material here is not really important. What's important is that white is about to play rook g3 and then deliver checkmate. I mean, this is a big problem. If black has to give back the bishop, then it's just an extra rook for white. And I'm not seeing how Nepo deals with this. King g6. Yeah, so there's going to be rook takes g4 all the year in that position, because the rook isn't pinned anymore. But yeah, we can put it on the board because Nepo, he's scrambling. So check here, f5, f3, and yeah, I don't see how black saves this. Queen e5, king h2. Bishop is lost. f4, rook takes g4. So rook h3. If queen e1 check, king h2, rook is coming to g3. So there's nothing black can do here. This rook g3 is brutal. Yeah, I don't know who needs to hear this, but Artemiev is an absolute savage, especially with no time on the clock. Just a merciless savage of a player. He would checkmate his own mother with 2 seconds on the clock. The guy is just unstoppable. So if bishop h5, then rook g3 check, and then white has h5. So amazingly, like, all the tactics here are just working out for white. It's absolutely insane. Nepo has been tanking. This is probably his longest think of the game because he just needs to find a way to continue the battle. That's really what he's looking for. He's just looking for any way. If black had a way to just keep just to be down in exchange, he would 100% have taken it by now. But it's like, how do you even just go down in exchange? Rook g3 is coming, and then queen g8 is a checkmate. He's spending all his time here. I mean, Nepo's super resourceful. I feel like he's going to find something. And he's putting a lot of pressure on Artemiev actually by not moving. Because Artemiev, for the last 5 minutes, he's on 4 seconds. He has to just like stare at the screen and make sure his mouse is basically on the rook. And he's like, he definitely doesn't have rook g3 pre-move. You can't pre-move here. Because who knows, black could go some crazy. You can't pre-move. Actually, rook g3, I think you can pre-move this. Because it's a check. But still, he's probably either hovering or he's got it pre-moved. He's probably hovering. He's probably hovering. Maybe king g6. I'm sure Nepo's looked at a way to try to escape, but yeah, this isn't gonna work. Queen g8 check. Okay, there he goes. Bishop g4. He found something. h5, f3. Artemyev's ready for it. Let's see what he came up with. I don't see it though. I don't see it. King h2. He's just losing the bishop. That's gonna be a rook for white. Queen f4. King h2, f5. He's gonna try to play against the pin, but still, this is yeah, this is the best he could come up with. This was his best try. He tried to catch Artemyev off guard, but this is a rook, and white should be able... White just has too many pawns, so any endgame is going to be winning. Yeah, queen c3. Okay, black is just trying to keep the pin on, but yeah, king is going to unpin here. Rook to d3. Okay, queen takes h4. He's pushing h5. Nice. But queen h4 check. What does he want? King g1. Queen takes h5, and then black gets mated. If he takes this pawn, rook starts swinging over. Black is just going to get mated. Okay, still some technique here, but Artemyev needs to convert this to stay in this match. Whoa, f4, g3. Uh-oh. Hold on. Oh, queen c6. Huge move defending g2. And now there's no mate. Queen h2 check. He can take on h5 with check. But now white's king can at least escape. And he's got this g-pawn. This is still like somewhat... Like, we're not winning this, guys, against Nepo, right? With 7 seconds on the clock. Artemyev, I think he's still a favorite to win this. But like, we're not winning this. That's for sure. That's how tricky. Now black's king starts getting in. King h6. Okay, queen c3. Artemyev, oh, offering the queen trade and queen h8. This could be devastation. But the endgame here, it just feels completely busted for black. Like, the rook and king are very close. You got this g-pawn. Black's a-pawn is never going anywhere. Nepo might have to go for the rook endgame, but oh man, this is an achievement for white. e5. Still though, the pawns are coming. f5, king g5, e4. You can keep everything defended as black. You do have 4 versus 1. But Artemyev, the rook is going to be able to give a lot of checks. e4. If it was 3 pawns against 0, this would actually be kind of drawish because the pawns are quite advanced. But 4 versus 1, this changes things because white can't really... it's hard for black to make a pass pawn. No, at this point, white isn't risking to lose this really at all. But the question is whether Artemyev can figure out how to win it with seconds on the clock. What does Engine say? What is it? I don't know. I don't know, guys. We're just following the board along with the players. You know, players also don't know what Engine says. They just have to figure it out on their own. King d2, king g5, and Artemyev. He's trying with the rook, but right now, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. How do you break through? The king has to kind of stay here to make sure black doesn't make a pass pawn. So the only way to win here, this is what the eval bar is not going to tell you, right? Is like what you can even try. But from a human point of view, the only thing you can try is to get the king in. But that takes risk. If he goes king c3 here, Nepo's going to go f3 and just promote his pawns. So I think actually Nepo, guys, I think Nepo is holding this one. Maybe Engine finds some super clever win, but no, black's pawns are solid and the rook just can't do anything. The rook can't do anything. The king has to stay on e1 and e2, and that's it. That's it. Artemyev is trying. He's trying. He's like avoiding a repetition. He's moving the rook around, but yeah, this is feeling like very much a fortress. Like you just can't make progress as white. If you play king c3, black goes f3, then you do lose. Then you do lose. The king comes in, then black's pawns are way too strong. And wow, what a defense by Nepo. So he goes down the rook, and he manages to save 3 pawns against the rook. Oh, and there's king c3. There's king c3. Why did he put the king on g6? He's allowing rook g8 check. Rook takes g3. Artemyev, he's going for it. He's going for it. And Nepo Nepo, what are you doing? Why is the king on g6? King had to stay closer. King g4, king g5. Well, I guess he didn't want to. He didn't want to get his king cut. Actually, that's true. So you can't go king g4. Can't go king g4. So Artemiev, he found the chance. He found the triangulation. He waited for Black's king to be on g6, and then he makes the run for it with king c3. Wow, folks, this is fighting chess. This is real fighting chess. What to do? King g5, you have to come up. You have to stay in contact with the f pawn. King d4, f3. Nepo going for it. But now takes. Aren't these pawns stopped? King f4, fe4, followed by rook takes f5 check. Takes here, but now king e3. Does Black have enough for the draw here? f2, king e2. Then what? Maybe king f4, king g4. The king is going to try to snake in. Rook gave check. If the king goes to h3, then rook comes back maybe to f8. Oh, king f1. Artemiev might be winning this. Black's pawns are stuck. King g2 now. But can White make progress here? Can White make progress here? Black's pawns are again stuck. But can White make progress? Rook a4. You can't bring your king in without allowing promotion. I think Black is still fine. There's no way to make progress for White. Again, the king can't walk in without allowing the pawns to promote. Holy smokes. Incredible defense here by Nepo. And yeah, Artemiev here needs to be careful he doesn't get himself mated. But he really did absolutely everything he could to try to win this. Whoa, including now he's allowing f3 check. Black could have played f3 check. Why didn't he go f3? f3 felt like that's totally... Yeah, you're never losing after f3. That's it. Yeah, this construction, this feels very, very safe for Black because what can you do? Like, how do we imagine a situation where White wins the f4 pawn? How does that even look like without, at some point, White has to move the king to f3 and then Black promotes, right? So Rook would have to be on the first rank, but then that always gives Black time to put the king on g4. And yeah, earlier he could have even played f3 check. I think he would have been fine there, but decided not to. f3 losing according to the engine. That's crazy. I believe you, but that's crazy. We'll go back and look at it. The only way I could see f3 losing is if White gets the rook on f8, and then we're in a zugzwang. But even then, actually, I'm not sure that was or losing for Black. No, I believe you. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked and awed. Okay, I think we're finally gonna get a repetition here. Oh, I understand why. Okay, yeah, let's go back. So Nepo saves the draw. Amazing defense. Let's just go back to that moment. Wow, he showed some very nice restraint there than not playing f3 because, yeah, basically I thought it looked like why not kind of situation, but no, actually. Man, Artemiev's so tricky. So if you go f3, the problem is you can never play g2 check. You lose the f pawn. And this looks like a fortress, but actually White just goes rook g8, and this is a zugzwang. So that's how White wins. Now you have to play g2, otherwise you lose the pawn. but then king takes f2, and then these pawns you lose. White just picks them up one by one, and it's game over. So very instructive moment there, not pushing f3, just leaving the pawns defending each other. And now this is black's weakness here, and there's no zugzwang, there's no way for white to coordinate the rook and king to win this one, because yeah, black just stays put and king can never leave f1 square. Amazing defense by Nepo. I'm sure Artemiev was winning there, but wow, Nepo saves a huge game. He gets white in the next game. If he wins this next game, then he takes this match. Now, the losers bracket matches have unfortunately ended while we were watching that game. So Aronian won this first game. Alexeyev was in a must-win situation, and of course, looks like he was trying very hard, but the position that he got here, this just looks like better for black. So I'm not surprised that Levon was able to hold this one. It looks like they just repeated. I mean, I think if anyone is better here, it looks like black is in control. So yeah, 93. I think Alexeyev offered a draw, and this was accepted. And Basim Amin won the second match against Yakubov. He ended up winning the second game. This was a very sharp King's Indian. Let's just see what's transpired here. Looked like some crazy mess. Yakubov was the one in the must-win situation. Queen g5. Basim Amin, queen g4. And, in the time scramble with 7 seconds on the clock, Yakubov hangs the rook with check. And mate, in fact. It's just mate next move because white's king is stuck. So, Amin and Aronian, they advance to the next stage of the losers bracket. Sounds like they will be playing next. Let's see if that match is here. I think I need to refresh to find it. Give me a sec. Here we go. Okay, so it's Amin versus Aronian in the losers bracket semifinal. Nepo is the winner, not the winner, excuse me, he's leading the winner's final. If he continues and wins, then Artemiev will be sent down to play the winner of this match. Folks, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to leave the game on, so of course you guys can follow it, and I will be back in a few. Thanks for watching the stream. See you guys shortly. Julius Baer Generation Cup, Day 4, Division 2. You're watching on ChessDojoLive. Now, what is happening here? Someone please explain. Basimamin playing like absolute madman. Let's see what happened here. King's Indian attack is specialty. Oh, wow. H6, he went knight takes d6, sacrificing the bishop. Basimamin is such a creative player. Very, very inventive. Takes on f7, so he gets 3 pawns for the piece. e6, 3 pawns and these 2 monster knights. Queen g4, rook e5, knight d3. And Levon is doing his best to defend, but he just gave this piece on d5. Queen takes f2 check. Levon playing for counterplay, but look at White's pieces here. White is so active. Man, what a wild position. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy right now. So this is the losers semifinal. This is game 1 of 2. Nepomniachtchi against Artemiev. Should have started their 3rd game, but I don't see it yet. They should be starting their 3rd game soon. In the meantime, bishop b7. Man, what is happening here? Aronian just trying to defend. Okay, looks like we're having a bit of trouble getting it up on the events page, but they are playing their 3rd game, and we should be able to see it soon. So yeah, for whatever reason, it's not showing up, but it is happening. It is underway. In the meantime, we have this insanity to try and reckon with. I've been trying to figure out whether White is winning here or if Black is like winning. It's really hard to say. Levon is just giving up more material here with bishop to b7. Of course, this rook on e5 is hanging, so knight takes b7. Basim takes it, and rook a8. Oh, that's his idea. Holy smokes. He's playing for the counterplay on the a file on the 1st rank. Okay, insane position. But clearly White should have a move here. I mean, he can transfer the rook, like rook g1. And what is even the material count? At this point, actually, White is now up a piece. So Levon is like sacrificed 2 pieces to get to this insane mess of a position. He can take on e5 at any moment, but then White will recapture, and Black gives up his strong knight. And then White has 2 knights for the rook, which is a lot of material. And also this e7 threat is in the position is very, very annoying for Black. So, I mean, this is an absolute mess, but I gotta feel like White is doing well. All right, rook g1. And Aronian, one of the craftiest players out there, he's gonna come up with something, that's for sure, to pose problems. Because White is like 1 move away from just like devastating threats. Queen takes g6, knight h6 check, e7, e7. e7's pretty brutal here. So absolutely critical position. Extremely difficult to play these kinds of positions when you have no time. But even in classical chess, this would just be insanity to try and figure out. But rook g1, White's play, of course, is very clear. He wants e7. He wants to just start winning material. So knight takes e5, de. Then e7 is still a problem. So Levon doesn't really want to take this rook or really do anything without having concrete follow-up. Bishop takes e5. Okay, is there anything with queen takes g6 check? Bishop goes back to g7. Knight h6 check, king h8. Doesn't seem like it. So d takes e5. Amin just recaptures. Now this is a mate threat. What does Levon want here? King g7 perhaps. King g7, e7. Rook takes f7. Not super clear. King g7, I think he can still play. Oh, he just takes right away. Okay, sacks the exchange. So now white is up a full piece after e takes f7 check. He's pausing. He's thinking about queen takes g6, but then rook g... Oh, he played it. Oh, he played it. Oh, huge move. Rook g7, e7. e7, e8. Oh, Basim Amin with the tactics. Takes here. If king f8, then I think you just trade queens. You're just up a piece. You're completely winning. And if king h8, Levon just resigns. I think queen takes f7 is coming anyway. Oh, huge find by Basim Amin in this first game, and he takes the lead in their match. Aronian will have to win the next game on demand to force Armageddon. Takes, rook takes f7 was played. I mean, he could have recaptured here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is completely winning for white. He's up a piece, but this is even stronger. Asking for rook g7, e7 check, followed by e8 equals queen, and white is just mopping everything up. Black has no counterplay against the king. King is very safe, and so it's just a bunch of extra material here for white. So fantastic win by Basim Amin to take that first game. We're going to wait on their game 2. In the meantime, Nepo or Temiev, they are playing their game 3, but I'm not seeing it show up on my end. I'll try refreshing and seeing if it magically pops up. Sometimes these things just get fixed, and it's like, oh, there's the game. But no, not seeing the game. In the meantime, Aronia and Amin, they are starting their second game. Once again, Levon here, he's down a point, so he's in must-win situation to come back in this match. All right, in the meantime, let's see if I can just at least pull up the results brick for Levon and Basim Amin. And game is underway, and Levon goes e4 best by test in this must-win game. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. And he goes for the Italian game. Basim Amin definitely not out of the woods yet. He's going to need at least a draw in this game to advance to the losers final. It looks like we got a pretty sharp line of the Italian here. And wow, these moves are coming fast and furious. These guys both have been doing their chessable. They are ready. They are ready for this variation. This is pretty theoretical stuff. Shift this over, and here we go. All right, got the scores. Both matches up on the screen. Nepo Artemiev, we're still looking for that game 3. Oh, and we got it. We got it. Here we go. And as usual, Artemiev down 11 minutes on the clock. Man, this guy is the new Grischuk. He just can't. He just can't get enough. He's just he's like using all his time. He can only play his best chess when he's under 30 seconds. Somehow he like a genie came to him. He made some wish, and Artemiev is a beast, but he can only play his best chess under 30 seconds. I think that's what's happening here. Now, Nepo is still leading this point by a match. He won the first game and then just barely defended that second. I mean, that second game was a masterclass in defense, especially in time trouble. But Nepo's still up a point here. And if he wins this game, then he cruises to the overall final of the tournament. But of course, he's still a long way from doing that. And yeah, Nepo, of course, one of the fastest players on the circuit, sometimes to his own detriment. Though in this tournament, I mean, I feel like he's been playing some of the absolute best chess. He wrecked Fedoseev. He also defeated Basimamin yesterday, 2.5 Basimamin was crushing people left and right, and then he was crushed by Nepo. So just shows you like there are levels to these players. There are just absolute levels. And okay, in terms of the position, we can actually go back and play through this one. Looks like this was also an Italian game. And we'll definitely keep an eye on the Iranian game as well, because Iranian must-win situation. Kind of interesting battle there. So, okay. Very unusual version, a5. A lot of times I see black playing a6 themselves and not letting white advance the a-pawn. Here Artemiev decides he's cool. He doesn't need that. So a6, b6. Nepo now going to be playing for this like long-term alpha 0 kind of pressure pawn. h3, bishop e6, rook e1. White doesn't mind the trade on c4 because he's going to get fantastic control over the d5 square. So if takes, for example, this knight just lands on d5 and white is doing well. So d5 played by black. He fights for the square. That feels like a very potent breakthrough. Bishop d2. Takes on c3, takes on c4. We had a lot of trades. And I see we have moves coming in, so we're going to get to the live game here very quickly. Bishop takes e5, played by Nepo, after a bit of a think. Opting for trades. Knight takes e5. And now rook to e8. So Artemiev, he could have traded and went rook to d2, but I'm assuming he didn't like rook e7, where white is collecting a lot of stuff on the 7th rank. And here's where this alpha 0 pawn, right, is super annoying for black, because if white wins this a7 pawn, obviously the a pawn is a monster. Okay, but let's get to the live game. So rook e8, f4, f6. Artemiev goes for the knight endgame instead, but he's down a pawn, but he's winning it back. He's winning the pawn back after knight b4, and this endgame looking very, very drawish now. So if this one does end in a draw, that would mean 2-1 for Nepo going into the final round, and Artemiev would be in a must-win situation in that last white game. But in the meantime, I'm wondering if there's anything that Nepo can still try here. Yeah, he does have the jump with his king, so his king is a little bit closer. Now knight d3, controlling black's knight. That's interesting. But giving black time to get his king in as well. So my feeling is that maybe white is a smidge better because his king is getting in fast. In fact, this is a problem for black. If the king walks in, right, that could be very, very serious. But king f7 King d4. Black is in time. King e6 to stop white's king from advancing any further. Feels like Nepo might play this one a little bit because he has some space. He's got g4. He's got b4. It feels like white can massage a little bit, you know, just push a little bit. I'm not saying white is winning. I'm not even saying white is better. I'm just saying white can play the position and not feel like he's messing around. You know, I feel like black is the one that still has to be quite precise here. But black has this c5 move coming, and there we see Nepo stops this one right away. c5. And now, of course, black cannot trade everything on c5. Then white's king does get super active. So Artemiev, he has to find a way to keep the balance here. 3 seconds. Knight b8. He gets the move off in time. Knight comes to c6. Artemiev now in the zone. Nepo did manage to trick him once in game 1 when Artemiev was in this heavy time pressure. Nepo found a way to pose problems that Artemiev couldn't deal with. Now maybe b5, king c4. White does have to be careful not to overpress. I mean, black one day can maybe start activating his own king. So g4 here comes to mind, kind of restricting black's king. b4 as well. These moves are kind of the main moves I'd be looking at for Nepo. He decides to take on b6. Very solid. g4. Now, okay, this should be very, very holdable, provided nothing insane happens to Artemiev in the time scramble. You never know, folks. I mean, of course, the players, you know, Artemiev here, he's also just running a Wi-Fi risk. You know, he's playing a Wi-Fi gambit because if his Wi-Fi cuts out for like 2 seconds, you could just flag, you know, and that would be, you know, that would be on him. It's up to the players to secure their connection, and it's kind of a big part of online chess. And yeah, if you don't leave yourself with a lot of time, you are kind of leaving yourself liable to the disconnect. But on the board, it feels like Artemiev is just holding everything just fine. Knight e7, knight e5. b5 played. What a move. What a move. Played with 1.2 seconds on his clock. Artemiev playing on this 3-second increment. And what a find. He wants knight d5 check and knight takes b4. But wait, the g6 pawn is going to hang. So why can't Nepo take this one? Why can't Nepo take this? He does take. Knight d5 check, king f3. Knight comes back to e7, king e2. So white's now up a pawn. I don't think Artemiev had to give that pawn. I'm kind of surprised by this. And now Nepo definitely has a chance. This knight on e5 is super annoying because it's tying black down to the g6 pawn. And so Artemiev, he tries to break free. Now king c4 maybe. King c4, attack the knight. King d4. Yeah, white now won a very strong g-pawn. Oh, this is probably just dead for black. This is very, very bad. Because now white's protected g-pawn is just a menace. Knight endgames are often very similar to king and pawn endgames. If this was a king and pawn endgame, then black is just completely dead lost. This extra pawn is decisive. In the knight endgame, it's not as clear, but it still feels very, very good for white. Now the knight can always jump back. The g-pawn is running. Oh, he wants to put the knight on d5. That's the best square in the position. Defending the pawn and hitting c7. The king can come up to c6 here as well. That's it. Nepo's winning this one, folks. He once again found a way to trick Artemiev in the time scramble. Artemiev, yeah, he defended amazingly, but just blew it with that g-pawn. This b5 move, I think, was completely unnecessary. And that's it. Nepo wins the game and the match. 2.5-1/2. Honestly, very deservedly. I mean, he played very well. Artemiev also played amazingly, but when you leave yourself with 3-4 seconds for the rest of the game, these things can happen. And this was probably not a great move. Although, honestly, guys, here it's already, according to the engines, it's very, very tough for black already. The only move was c5. And even then, white is still better here after. Well, actually, no. Maybe this would have been drawing. This
This would have been fine for black, but very, very hard move to find. And yeah, Nepo really played this one well. I think f5, I think this was the culprit here, guys. At this point, black is completely fine. But after f5, g5, black is still okay here if he takes. But he obviously didn't want to go for this because this gives the f4 square. So here white is actually better. So he played h5, but now he leaves himself this long-term issue of knight e5, and this g-pawn is just a long-term weakness. So Nepo finds a way to squeeze it out in the knight endgame and wins the winner's division of Division 2, Julius Baer Generation Cup. So he will now face the winner. He'll be waiting. He's done. Nepo is done until tomorrow. He can rest. He will be awaiting the winner of the matches. First between Aronian and Amin. One of these guys has to get eliminated and get through. The winner of this match is then going to play Artemiev today. After this match is over, Artemiev is now waiting for the winner here, and they're going to play to determine who gets to face Nepo in tomorrow's tournament final. So this here is the loser semifinal. Aronian is in a must-win situation after losing the first game. Honestly, played brilliantly by Amin. And he, of course, is going to have to win this game to force an Armageddon. These are 2-game matches. And yeah, whoever wins this one will then face Artemiev afterwards in the losers final. Hey, we got post in the chat. Yeah, I don't know who chat is rooting for. I mean, I like both of these guys. Levon has been playing some great chess. Basim has been playing some incredible chess. I mean, he had some games earlier that were just like wild. You know, the dude, he just plays e4, he plays his King's Indian attack, and he just checkmates everybody with white and black. And all right, so here Levon is in a must-win situation. He just played d takes c5. Let's just go back so you guys can see how the opening played out in this one. Looks like Levon went for the Italian game with c3, d4. The old Joko piano takes e5. This is kind of an older line, but is well known. Black plays the very typical d5 here, counter thrust, in order to hit white's bishop. White avoids the trade, but this gives black a chance to put the knight on e4. And yeah, let's just play through the game here. Levon does some tricky stuff. This is kind of like a known thing. Castles, you can even allow black to take on f3 and play against these weaknesses, but white does get some nice play in the center and light scored bishop. Of course, he takes on c6, knight e2, rook b8. And very funky structure, f5 takes on f6 en passant, queen takes f6, rook c1, c5. Yeah, it's very unclear when it's like okay to give yourself the double pawns, especially in front of your king. This is one of the few situations where I think it is fine for white because you are forcing black to give up the light squared bishop, but it's a very double-edged situation. So this is like, in general, I would not recommend allowing this in most cases. But when you're Levon Aronian and you're formerly 2800 FIDE, you can pretty much do whatever you like. C1, C5, and C5. So this is where we came in. So Basim Amin, he spent some time on this move. For those that don't know, Amin, I think he actually holds 2 titles. He's the highest ever rated player from Africa. He crossed 2,700 not too long ago. I believe is the only African player to do so. And I think this is true. He's also the highest rated medical doctor in the world at 2,700. Right now, I think maybe 2,690 FIDE. But yeah, the dude is also a physician. So yeah, how many achievements can one person have? Huh? So he goes c5. And on the chessboard, he's a total maniac. D takes c5, sacrificing the pawn. White takes. And a rook b4. So this is his idea. c5 takes rook b4. Now he activates the rook along the 4th rank. And he's going to definitely be playing against White's king here. So maybe rook h4 is coming. Very, very interesting. Of course, this f-pawn cannot be taken because the knight on e6 hangs with check. But at a certain point, of course, this one is going to be a pretty serious target. So rook b4, Ronia thinking how to deal with this one. He's in a must-win situation. I think he likes that it's a crazy position, but it does feel very, very nice and active for black. I wouldn't want to play a move like f4 here because then that allows like d4. Okay, d4, bishop, d2. All right, there's a lot of tactics in the position, so I don't know. Maybe f4 is playable, but it feels weakening as well. Rook e4 could come, followed by d4. That could be a big problem for white. Does go f4. I mean, the other option was to bring the queen back to like g3 or g2, but yeah, that's kind of hard to do. You feel like you're playing very passively, and then of course, black is going to start, trying to jump in. Okay, f4 played. So now d4 immediately, I think, runs into bishop d2. I doubt black wants to allow that. Rook b5, trading on a5. Maybe that's fine, actually. Now that, hold on. I don't think this is actually that bad for black. Just rook b5. White doesn't really have time for a4 because bishop takes d2, and then black will take on c1. So black should be more or less fine here. Then after d4, bishop d2, rook b5, if trades, black is threatening this pawn, and threatening the f4 pawn. Feels like black should be able to win the pawn back and have a very, very active position. Like black's pieces, I think, are going to be quite good. So d4 actually does seem playable, but I'm sure black has other moves as well. Even just like something as simple as c6, just like super slow. All right, looks like he did go d4, but even this move, just like strengthening the center, allowing the bishop to drop back, I feel like this is possible as well. But here, okay, white also again has bishop d2, so I don't see the need to really, although actually I think this would be fine for black, but he does go d4. Now, what to do for white? Other than bishop d2, hard to come up with a move, maybe a3 or something, but that doesn't look super clear. On here thinking about it. I don't blame him. But other than bishop d2, what's the move here for white? What other moves does white even have? Like, what's he thinking about? Bishop is hanging. There's one legal square. I hate it when they do this. They're thinking. It's like, you only have one move. It makes me feel like an idiot. Like, what move am I not seeing? Like some a3? I don't get it. What move is he thinking about here? Bishop has one square. And then he's going to end up playing bishop d2, and I'm going to be like, what? What is he thinking about it? What's the other move here? f5? Maybe f5. Seeing if it makes sense to force the queens off. Yeah, a3 I don't see the point, right? Because just rook takes and the pawn on this feels worse for white, if anything, because the pawn is still defended and the bishop is now trapped, right? So a3 came to mind, but how long is he going to spend on a3? He played a what? What? Rook takes b3. I mean, no, Aronian, I'm sure he's figured something out here, but what's the trick? What's the trick? Rook takes b3. And I think Basimamin is also just like confused. He's like, what's the trick here? Oh, queen e6 check. So takes like this, takes, queen e6. Levon Aronian with the laser vision. And then he would take the rook. It all makes sense now. Levon Aronian confirmed genius, 2900 IQ. 2900 IQ right now. A3. Look at this move. Because if he gets b4, that's pretty serious. Although, all right, what's the follow-up then if black doesn't hang the rook? Let's say black brings the rook back. Then the bishop is still having problems, right? So what would be the follow-up here then? Because b4 I don't quite get. Black is taking first and opening up white's king. This doesn't look healthy for white at all. All of white's pawns here would be weak, and this looks really, really ugly. So a3, rook b8, maybe taking here first and then going b4, something like that. But this is very sharp. The issue for white is when you take on a5, all the pawns are going to be completely isolated. So, but okay, huge find by Aronian. I mean, he's in the must-win situation. So, yeah, what else are you gonna do here? Basimamin takes on b3. Okay, but he's not gonna allow queen e6 check. He's gonna knight takes d4. He's gonna play something. Every move is surprising. They keep playing the moves that are like not possible according to tactics, and it's like, oh, okay, so I guess they are possible. It's like, huh. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to to watch. Knight takes b3, and now what is rook takes b3? What is Aronian doing? Okay, he takes. Hey, Andrew, how's it going? Okay, trades on d4. Now I'm not expecting queen takes d4 because then queen e6 check. Yeah, so he covers at queen f5, not allowing queen e6 check, queen takes b3. And an extra pawn for white, but look at these pawns. Every pawn is weak. This feels like Ahmed has really good chances to hold this one, but there's still a ton of play left in the position. Bishop e5, yeah, improving the bishop, getting ready to bring the rooks in on the d file, and saying to black, look, if you want to trade queens and help me, that's your call. That's on you. That's on you. But if black moves away, gotta be careful. Queen e6 check is a problem. So, yeah, this is game 2 of a rapid match. Rook takes h3, snags a pawn, but takes. Black has won the pawn back, but white might be able to use this moment to kind of mess with black's pieces, because black's rook's kind of lacking a bit of coordination. Although this rook is trying now to take on a3. So this is looking very critical for Aronian here. Bishop d2 also in the air to take on f4. Black is just like 1 or 2 pawn trades away from really getting out of danger. So rook d1, I think this is the right approach. Playing for activity. Rook d7, rook g7 check. The second rook can activate with rook b1, rook to b8. Rook b1 here maybe. So this could be super dangerous for black if white's rooks get in. I mean, really a lot of potential to just mate the king with the bishop like this on e5. Question is what to start with, rook d7 or rook b1? I wouldn't recommend giving check because then the king can kind of start escaping. I think cutting the king off would be the right approach. But let's see what Aronian comes up with. Yeah, no pawns for white. No huge pass pawn prospects, other than if you could somehow win the c7 pawn, which is unlikely. So yeah, rook b1 played. Aronian banking all of his hopes on the attack. g5, very logical move, trying to break through. Now rook d7 is definitely possible, followed by rook b8. So rook d7 played, threatening a mate with a rook b8 check, and then rook f8, rook g7. So black here needs to defend. But how? But how? I think white's just winning this. Comp pace g5, not really surprising. I don't like it either. Rook d7 and white's crashing through. But it was really hard to see what to do. Maybe king f7, that would be my best guess. Just get the king off of the back rank so you don't get mated. But really, really tough position for Amin. Here, g5, rook d7. Now what to do? Aronian, I think he might be taking this one, folks. 30 seconds for black. Yeah, bishop b6 suggested by the engine. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, that means white was just winning. There. So rook d7. What to do? Oh, he plays bishop b6. Best move. Takes here. But these guys are on their own. Oh yeah, no, black is lost. With 2 rooks on the board, you're getting mated here. 2 rooks and a bishop are dangerous. Not to mention white still has this f pawn, but yeah, no, black is dead lost. And okay, there's the immediate mates. Rook g7, rook d8 coming next move. So Levon takes it. Very, very tough defense for Basim Amin. Obviously, these players are not engines. And yeah, when you're facing these kinds of problems, 2 minutes on your clock, good luck. That's all I got to say. Good luck. So Levon wins on demand, forcing the Armageddon. They are now going to bid. So what they're going to bid for is how much time they're willing to accept as black in order to have draw odds. So white is going to get 15 minutes no matter what, and the players are going to be bidding how much time they're willing to take in order to take the black side and draw odds. So if Levon wants 12 minutes and Basim is like, I'll take 11 minutes, then Amin gets black with 11 minutes and the draw odds. But they're going to be submitting their bids secretly. They don't see each other's bids, of course. And so, yeah, both players need to figure out how much they want to play white in the Armageddon game. Now, keep in mind, folks, white won both games in this match. Bossy Mammon won the first game as white in absolutely brilliant fashion, like sacrificing a piece and just amazing attack. Levon wins the second game, showing some excellent technique here. So it seems like both players might want to not be too aggressive with the bid. In fact, we have seen players take less time as white just to take white. They're like, I'll take 12 minutes, but I want white, no draws, which is pretty intense. And we've had a couple bids that were basically within 1 second of each other, which are which have been quite something. Okay, the bids are in. Oh, wow, big bids here. Look, get a load of this, folks. Get a load of this. Here are the bids. The game is going to be starting soon. Bossy Mammon bid 12 minutes to take black. Levon Aronian, 9 minutes. 9 minutes is the bid. So Levon, he gets a little scuffed on the bid there because that was a full 3 extra minutes he could have had with a less aggressive bid. But man, Levon, he's saying, you know what? No, I'm gonna hold it. He's saying, I'm not afraid of you. He's like, I'm gonna hold it as black. I just need 9 minutes. No increment, folks. So it's gonna be 15 versus 9, and yeah, it's gonna be draw odds for black for Levon, but he's gonna have his work cut out for him. And the game is starting. Here we go. Bossy Mammon, white, 15 minutes. Levon Aronian, 9 minutes, and draw odds. Division 2 losers bracket. Semifinal. The winner of this match plays Artemiev. Immediately after this game, Artemiev waiting in the wings, doing push-ups as he awaits the winner of this game. Are you allowed to bid more than 15 minutes? No, the way it works is if you can bid like nothing, like you'll say I'll take 15 minutes and take black. But one player actually bid to have less time as white. So that's how you would go overboard. You would say, all right, I want white. I'm willing to have 14 minutes if you give me white. And then the other guy gets 15 minutes and draw odds, which is pretty extreme. I do think draw odds, it's a serious thing in these formats. But with no increment, we're going to have to, both players are here going to have to play very, very fast to avoid getting behind on the clock, especially Levon, who starts off with 9 minutes. And we see a close Sicilian. Bossy Mammon playing his very, very typical King's Indian attack. Yeah, I forget who it was that bid to have less time with white, just because he wanted the white pieces so much. But it happened once in this event as well. Noterbek Yakubov in an earlier Armageddon, he bid 12 minutes to take white. He's like, just give me 12 minutes. I'll take a 3-minute deficit. I want white. His opponent was like, I would have given it to you at 15-15. Noterbek's like, no, I don't care. I want you can have the draw odds and the time odds. I don't care. And this is, in terms of the opening, I feel like this is a good choice for white here because no pieces have been traded. And the game is going to develop very, very slowly. And so the longer the game goes on, obviously, the more the clock ticks down and the harder it gets for Levon to keep up on time. Because there's no increment. There's no increment, folks. So once you get down to a minute, that's Flagtown. You're not getting extra time, right? So there's a bunch of pieces left on the board and you have a minute, 2 minutes on the clock. Sometimes, the players, they're just not even able to get everything off, even if you're totally fine and drawing the position. So it kind of changes the dynamic a bit because what happens, it's like, right now the pressure's on white, obviously, to try and win the game. But if it looks like the game is going to drag out, like 50, 100, 150 moves, and we saw that in some earlier Armageddon, some players very cynically were just blocking the position with white and then trying to play a bunch of moves and just running black down on the clock. And eventually, like, you just flag, you just run out of time because you can't pre-move everything. You have to play quickly, but you can't play too quickly because you have to still think about the position in case, your opponent tries to sneak some kind of e5 break on you or something. So you have to be you have to really balance the playing fast and playing precise. Now this opening here, this feels very similar to the opening that they played in game 1. And last couple moves here, we saw d4 white breaking in the center, takes 97, and yeah, now this is the live position. I just want to see how this compares to game 1, which Basim won brilliantly. So opening was basically identical, very, very similar. This d4 was played, and here Levon played c4, allowing white to go e5, knight d5, bishop g5, and here Basim Amin got this like vicious attack and ended up winning brilliant game. So Levon, of course, did not want to repeat this experience. And so here, instead of c4, he goes knight d7. So he improves on the earlier game, playing knight d7 to avoid e5. And guess what? Basim Amin, he just goes e5 anyway. The dude has one speed forward. It's just like, oh man, just e5 anyway. Levon just said you can't make this move, and here he goes. He plays it. He just plays it. I mean, some people, some people. Well, what's going on here? If takes on e5, there's some potential tactics on the diagonal. But what exactly is the idea here? Maybe he wants to take on c5. This is hard to say. In any case, after e5, Levon goes knight takes d4. So he decides to just get rid of this knight on c6 that's hanging and trade it off. Very, very logical move. He's going to be trying to take this e-pawn as well at some point to just completely demolish white's center. And I don't know if what exactly white is getting here with this break. So knight takes d4. If he trades on d4 with the knight, then at a certain point, black can just take on e5 and black is up a pawn. Black is up a pawn. Maybe there's some bishop a7. Okay, some complications still, but even like some exchange sack like this, actually, I feel like could be very, very reasonable for black with this bishop being super strong. But we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves. E takes d6 plate. Okay, yeah, this move seems more critical. Grabbing this pawn. And now white is going to maybe even try to hold on to it with bishop f4. So it's not going to be a given that black can win this d-pawn back. If he can, then he's totally fine. But if not, then yeah, bishop f4, if white is able to hold on to it comfortably, then okay, white can definitely keep putting some pressure here. So what is Levon going to do? Knight f5 maybe? Knight f5, bishop f4. b2 pawn is also hanging. Okay, trades on f3. And he takes with check, so I assume he wants to just take on b2 and just snag this pawn. And if black can get away with snagging the b pawn, that's a big deal, because then black's queenside is just going to be monstrous. So Levon Aronian, he's playing this very aggressively, and this could be big for him because he's putting the pressure on Basim Amin to justify the sacrifice, which is not so obvious. And white here is thinking, because his response here is not it's not clear what he should be doing. Because of course he sees that Levon is going to be playing bishop takes b2 next move. In fact, Levon might even have it pre-moved. Okay, he does not. Oh, bishop b7. Oh, I was wrong. Bishop b7 played. He doesn't take on b2. Maybe bishop takes b2. Is there some trick? Some bishop g5 or something? Maybe unpleasant. In any case, Levon decides against it, just goes bishop b7. And he's just leaving this b pawn. Okay, bishop g5 anyway. White here playing for the activity, wants to activate the bishop. Yeah, I'm not quite clear why he didn't take on b2 earlier, but it does make sense to develop your pieces because this weakness isn't going anywhere. And you can always take it later. Okay, right now, of course, bishop g5 is angling that queen on d8. So bishop f6. Levon trying to trade. Of course, he has draw odds and doing very well on the clock. He's now just 3 minutes behind. He started 6 minutes behind, so he's made up half the time. And if white takes, queen takes f6. This feels very, very solid for black. Yeah, I don't think black wants to go bishop takes f3 here, just because you are giving up a really powerful bishop. So you don't want to do this unless you're absolutely sure you're going to be getting that pawn. And I don't think it was so clear that black would be able to round this one up. So yeah. But okay, h4. He does take on f3 now. So bishop takes f3 and knight e5. So this is exactly what I meant. So here concretely, black is going after the d pawn. This bishop is hanging. And oh, just going back here. Oh, here bishop takes f3. Yeah, I guess there's some complications. So bishop takes d8. This is the problem. White would take the queen. Bishop takes d1. And there's rook takes e8 check. That's the issue. Otherwise, it would be working for black. But that's a big rook, and then rook takes d1. So that's a lot of yeah, just an extra rook for white. But that was an important line. Otherwise, bishop takes f3, of course. If white has to recapture, then queen takes g5. Black is winning. So this was important to see for both players. So trades bishop f6, h4. So now he takes. Now he goes knight e5. And yeah, how to play this for white, because this is obviously hanging. If queen d1, black can trade on f3, take on g5, and take on d6, just liquidating everything. So bishop d5, white has to keep pieces on the board. Queen takes d6, rook d1, threatening bishop takes f7 check. That's a big threat. Black needs to find the square for the queen here. Bishop takes g5. Oh, Levon Aronian. Wow, look at that. He was offering the queen, guys, with bishop takes f7. He was letting white do this, but then knight takes f7. Rook takes d6. Knight takes d6. hg. He was willing to go into this position as black. That is kind of surprising. Oh, no. Hold on. Sorry. This was the trick of the season. If bishop takes f7, he has king takes. This wasn't a threat because rook takes d6, knight f3 picks back the queen. So bishop takes f7 wasn't a threat. So tricky Levon takes. Oh, trades on d5. Oh, what a find. Rook c8, and that's it. They've drawn the game. Levon managed to simplify into a rook endgame where he's a pawn up. No winning chances here for white whatsoever. So Bassey-Mammon agrees to a draw and ends the match. So Levon wins the Armageddon with the draw odds. Very, very nice tactics there. Really well played, by the way, by Levon. I mean, he took that 9 minutes. Felt like a very low amount of time, but he made it work. And then rook d1, he found, some beautiful tactics. Fantastic. To force the simplifications. And then, okay, in a normal game, actually, black would play on. He would try to win this, but since he just needs a draw to advance, then, yeah, that's all. That's all that's needed. So, Levon advances to the loser's bracket final. He is now going to be facing Vladislav Artemiev in a rematch 2-game elimination match coming up next. We're going to take a quick break here, folks, as that match gets started. I think they're going to give Levon a couple minutes as well. And we will be back soon with the losers bracket final. This is the Julius Baer Generation Cup Division 2 official commentary here on Chess Dojo Live. Stay tuned, folks. Aronian Artemiev coming up next. See you all after the jump. All right, folks, we are back with the first game of the losers final in Division 2 of the Julius Baer Generation Cup. We have Vladislav Artemiev playing white, first game here against Levon Aronian. These players have both lost one match already. Levon lost earlier to Artemiev. Artemiev was the one that knocked him out. Artemiev just lost today to Nepomniachtchi, and now they're both facing elimination, both trying to win for a chance to face Nepo in the overall tournament final coming up tomorrow. So let's see what happened in this first game. Looks like it started with knight f3. Levon played c5, inviting the Sicilian. And Artemiev says, you know what? I will go e4. And here we go. We have g3, kind of close Sicilian. King's Indian attack. We saw Basimamin playing a lot of these lines, but Artemiev, he plays it a little bit differently. He goes d4 and eventually kind of transitions things into an open Sicilian structure. So pretty typical Sicilian here, I would say. White can maybe play for a small advantage, unless he goes for some tempting knight d5. You know, knight d5 is always an option in these positions. And there's some thematic tactics here. For example, knight d5, takes, bishop e7, bishop h6. This is a key one that white is often considering in this position. I don't know if it works exactly here, but this is exactly the kind of variation that Artemiev is examining right now, because this is pretty thematic. And yeah, the point is we're trying to undermine black's position here. If takes, then queen takes f6. And white has sacrificed a full piece, but everything is hanging in black's position. So white is winning the piece back at least. And if black does something like king f8, then there's ideas like rook takes e7, followed by bishop takes g7. And it's very hard for black to survive this on the dark squares. So knight d5 is definitely like an option here. But the thing is, on knight d5, the problem is that black doesn't have to accept the sack. Black can go knight takes d5 and then e5 like this. And this I feel like is actually pretty solid in terms of the structure. So bishop e7, castles, and I think Aronian would be fine here. I think there's a cat inside. I hear a cat, but I don't see a cat. All right. Keep you guys posted on the cat situation. So bishop d7, and yeah, Artemiev has been thinking here for a few minutes. Let's see if I can actually get the new scores up while he's doing that. There we go. There's our losers
final. An e5 played. So after a bit of a think, Artemiev goes for e5. Very interesting. Takes, rook takes e5. So white opens up the position. He definitely wants to go bishop f4 next and start creating problems for black's queen. The big question, though, is what is he going to do on bishop d6? Is he moving the rook away, or is he going to find or play some kind of bishop f4 exchange sacrifice? All right, we're not going to find out because Aronian starts with rook to d8, challenging white's queen in another way. I think here he wants to go bishop c6 next. And the thing is, if black can like trade a couple pieces here and just like develop, black will be fine. I mean, black's structure is very, very healthy here. So Artemiev has to be very, very precise, I think, if he wants to generate any kind of initiative. Maybe bishop f4 right now, threatening rook takes e6 check. But still, after bishop c6, that would have to be calculated. And it doesn't look that great for white, honestly. Let's just look at a sample line. I think Artemiev is going to... Dude, every game, Artemiev is going down to like a minute against his opponents. 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 11 minutes. So I think we're going to have some time here. So bishop f4 could run into bishop c6, counterattacking white's queen. And then if rook takes e6 check, white gives up a rook to win the queen, but then black wins back the queen for free. So black would just be up a full rook here. So bishop f4 played. I think bishop c6 is playable, but I'm not sure what the response will be. Maybe bishop c6, white just takes, queen takes c6, and game continues there. This is just game one, so it's neither player is in a must-win situation or anything like that. So yeah, okay, bishop d6 from Levon. Yeah, this was the other move I was kind of considering. And okay, note that rook takes e6 check here is met with bishop takes and defending. Otherwise, if white could get something like this, you best believe he would absolutely grab this with both hands. You know, like getting this massive dark scored bishop. But bishop takes e6 defends everything. And now the rook is kind of attacked. Not really sure if white has enough on the exchange sacrifice here, but I know he is at least going to be thinking about it. Cat updates on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks. Oh, the cat is around. The cat is exploring. The thing is, I made a mistake. You know, I walked into the room, I closed the door. There's two cats in the house, but I think only one of them is in here. I think one of the cats is in here, and one of the cats is out there. Oh, there it goes. There you go. Wow, this cat is a natural, huh? I didn't even ask it to come into the shot, but natural. So rook d1 played. And Artemiev here, wow, look at this. Sacrificing the exchange. He insists on the sacrifice. Not like he's like, yeah, go ahead, take the rook if you want. No, he insists. He's like, if you don't take the rook, I'm going to take your bishop. So you better go ahead and take the rook, boss. What a power move. What an absolutely power move. And yeah, I was thinking there is potential here because bishop takes e5, bishop e5. And then he's going to be taking on f6 with a lot of damage to black's structure. The problem is black doesn't have like a great... So I don't understand what Aronian missed here. Maybe he just had no choice going into this. Oh, and hold on. He doesn't go into this. But okay, here I think this would be very nice for white because you're just taking on f6 and black's king looks super, super weak. So tons of compensation for the exchange here. Levon plays bishop c6. Oh, yeah. Okay, my bad. He can just defend the bishop. Excuse me. I didn't realize. Yeah, he just defends the bishop. White trades on c6. I guess he's going to take with the queen here. And then maybe there's some rook takes e6, bishop takes d6.
options. Well, here, okay, this one is definitely not a threat because rook on d8 is just hanging. So here, white has a free move. He can go like bishop g5. He can do a number of things, but there is a lot of there's a lot of tactical danger here because black has ideas like bishop c7, for example, hitting the queen and then keeping an eye on the rook. So if it was like black to play here, he could play bishop c7. That might be really, really bad for white. Yeah, earlier that's a good point. For Artemiev, of course, if you move this rook away, then he gets this position, which would not be fun. Whether you trade queens or not, like, yeah, here white's pawns would be extremely weak. So here, I mean, I imagine black is doing very well. Probably much better. Yeah, so in that sense, his hand was kind of forced. He did have to at least offer the exchange. But, right, not too hard, I think, to see that there's the justification there. Okay, getting back to the game, Artemiev going down to his usual time trouble, brings the rook all the way back, rook e1. So here he was able to take on f4, so bishop e7. Sorry, bishop takes f4, of course, would be a blunder. So bishop e7, queen e5. And castles, queen c7. Artemiev going full endgame mode. But it doesn't look like white really has any advantage in this position whatsoever. I think Artemiev is now actually just trying to keep things really, really solid. Because king is a little bit weak, so with queens on the board, like you're always a little bit concerned here as white. And in the endgame, you know, famously, Sicilian endgames are generally quite fine for black. So my first thought here would be take, rook c8, go b5 next. Bishop b4 somewhere as well. Could be an idea. And it's probably close to equal, but yeah, I think I would generally prefer black very, very slightly in these kinds of structures. So yeah, seems to be a comfortable spot for Aronian here in this game one. Okay, rook takes d1, he inserts. So he trades off a pair of rooks first, and then he trades the queens. I would expect bishop e5 here. Bishop d6 may be possible as well. Okay, bishop d6. Yeah, Artemiev actually trying to trade more stuff off, which I think kind of reduces black's potential for the advantage. I really don't think he's playing for a draw or anything. Artemiev, he's actually kind of famously good at winning very, very simple positions. In fact, guys, in their earlier match yesterday, Artemiev against Aronian, I remember the first game, I think it was, Levon was like trying to convert. He was like much better, like close to winning, and then he couldn't figure out how to win. They got into just some equal endgame, bishop versus knight. All of a sudden, he's worse. Artemiev, he's been playing on the 3-second increment, you know, for most of the game. All of a sudden, Artemiev is slightly better. He starts playing for the win, and then he wins the game. Bishop versus knight, just this very dry technical endgame, like 2 pawns each. He was just slightly better. And yeah, so you got to be careful with Artemiev. You give him a small advantage in the endgame. It doesn't matter if he has 5 seconds left, 3 seconds left, half a second left. Like he's gonna, as long as he has an increment, he's gonna try to convert, and he's gonna do a damn good job of it. So yeah, you gotta be careful here. So king f8, Levon saying if you want to take on e7, king will come and recapture. White likewise brings the king in. And yeah, it's kind of a known thing. Sicilian endgames generally fairly comfortable for black, especially like in terms of the structure. Though it kind of depends. Of course, white has like the queen side majority, but yeah, king side majority is definitely pretty good too. Okay, 8 minutes for Levon. It must be so frustrating for these players. You got like 7 minutes on the guy, 10 minutes extra, and then he's just like playing, almost perfect chess. Though Nepo, though, to his credit, Nepo, I feel like he caught Artemiev a couple times today in the time scramble, and managed to kind of punish him for his time usage. That was pretty serious. Okay, knight d7. Neither side wanting to trade and help the other side's piece. So I would kind of expect king e2 here. Artemiev, clock is still ticking, and there's enough pieces on the board here. I'm sure Levon is not just content with the draw here, right? Like I feel like Levon would like to keep the game going for some time, and just seeing maybe he can put a little bit of a squeeze on his opponent. So knight b6, very interesting move, bringing the knight to c4, where then it puts pressure on white, right? And it's hard for white because you go rook b1, there's going to be knight takes b2 tactics and stuff. So king, bishop takes, king recaptured. Yeah, now black is looking to go knight c4, b5, and the end game, it plays. It kind of plays. I would definitely play on here if I'm black against, let's say, equal rated opponent. All right, rook d4. What does he want on knight c4 here? Because b3 also runs into some weaknesses on the c file, knight a3 and stuff. But knight a3, king d2. Maybe Artemiev can hold everything like this. b5. Hard to judge. Hard to judge. So knight c4 played. And knight d1. Yeah, because b3, knight a3, everything hangs on the c file. So knight d1, I think that's a good restructuring move by Artemiev. Defending the b pawn. Now you can push b3, c3, maybe c4. Feels like white is reasonably safe, but b5, I think the squeeze is coming, folks. The squeeze is coming. And the cat is looking longingly out the door. Longingly. I think the cat, because we have these two new kittens here in Los Angeles, and they've been very much bonding. And I don't know if they're used to spending time away from each other. Might be the longest time they've had away from each other. But that's good. That's good. You shouldn't. Two animals shouldn't just be together 100% of the time. They need to build some independent values as well. Okay, b3. I'm here visiting my folks in Los Angeles, and they got they got two new kittens here. So big addition to the family. Yeah, here for this weekend for a quick tournament over Labor Day. All right, b3 in the position. Knight a3. Guess white's going c3 there. But this knight on a3 is also not exactly a hero. Can find itself being pretty much trapped or out of the game. So yeah, Levon here has to be careful. Not sure if knight a3 is the way to go, because a3 and then the knight kind of gets stuck. I would rather keep the knight flexible. Knight d6, knight f5, knight e5, something like that. Maybe knight d6 here. Oh.
Look at this guy. This guy just decided to sit down. Right here. Hold on, let me turn the blur off. There we go. All right. All right. We'll see you later. We'll see you later. Yeah, knight b6, knight d5. This also feels like a nice maneuver. Okay, he goes knight e5. Knight e5. Knight e3. Now g5. Ooh. Levon really putting the pressure on. Yeah, folks, you know, ginger cats, orange cats, they get so much hate. Just last night, you know, I was talking to someone who's a cat person. This person likes cats. She's liked cats her whole life. And I mentioned we got some orange cats, and then she's like, "Oh, orange cats, those are the dumb ones." I was like, "What? What?" No, orange cats are so sweet. I really like orange cats. I feel like they've gotten a bad rap or something. I think it's not just Garfield. Orange cats are some of the nicest that I've ever met. I'm just gonna say. So not all orange cats. Yeah, in fact, they've been some of the friendliest cats. In my experience, cats can be kind of standoffish, skittish, you know, not super friendly. But orange cat's very nice, very playful. Okay, g5, f4. So Artemiev fighting back. He doesn't want to give black the chance to get the total grip with h5 and g4. That would be really annoying. The knight is allowed to hop into f3, so f4, stopping that plan. I would expect black to take, but Levon is thinking maybe he wants to insert knight c6. Knight c6, rook e4 though, and there's no f5. Well, we'll just take it. And you can't take because king would be in check. So f4. Levon thinking though. On takes, it's not clear actually how white takes. He could very well take with the rook, trying to keep his pawn structure more intact. But then black gets a passed e-pawn. So, but if he takes with a pawn though, then of course one day black could get the g file. Decisions. I don't know, but so far Levon hasn't taken here. He's still thinking about it. What does he think? He's either thinking about takes or knight c6. If he has a third move in mind, I'm just gonna lose it. What else could he play here? No, it's either gf4 or knight c6. Come on, guys. Let's be serious. Let's be serious. Either knight c6 or gf4. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. Takes knight c6, rook e4, king f6, a4, and now h5. Black advancing. b5, ab5. Notice Levon didn't push b4 because that would give up the c4 square, so keeps the pawn on b5. 8 seconds for Artemiev, but he's very good in these time scrambles. It feels like white should be fine here. So c4, offering more trades on the queen side. And looking to create a queenside pass pawn. Okay, rook b8 keeping the tension. King d3. You can believe Levon is looking for any chance to try and squeeze something here. Takes. Pawn takes. Rook b2. The rook activates, but knight c2. Artemiev has it all under control. Rook b3 check. Maybe he'll swing over now. Rook h3. Rook h3, rook e2. King f5. Could be some trouble here for white. These pawns are loose. Why not rook h3? What is Artemiev going to do on rook h3? Maybe he's just thinking rook e2 and then how to continue. All right, here he goes. Rook h3, rook e2. King f5. Black's king now coming in. What's white going to do about this one? Rook f2? Feels so passive, though. Levon looking for the maximum he can get. Maybe king e4. Bring the king even closer. Oh, there he goes. f5. Artemiev sacking the pawn. What's this about? You can just take it. ef. What does he want? Rook e2 check, maybe. Aronian with a chance here in game 1. He can also play e5. Just try to keep control and potentially set up 2 connected passers later on. e5 might even be the more ambitious move here, looking to win this pawn for free. He's definitely thinking about it, but 1 minute for Levon. He goes knight e5, a third move, allowing the trade on e6, but he can take on c4 with check. King drops back. Can he take back? It's just a pawn. Looks like it's just a pawn for black, and Artemiev is going to have to defend this. Not easy at all. Let's flip the perspective. We'll see it from Levon's point of view. And if he can hold on to this pawn, then he's just going to... he's going to be able to really squeeze. Rook f3 at what point? At what point? I'm not sure. When rook f3. But now Aronian... Okay, it's an extra pawn, and this is not an easy hold here for white. Not comfortable at all. Black is very, very active. Levon's found a way. But again, it was this time pressure. Artemiev is super, super strong, but he's not... he's not an engine. And yeah, this feels very, very difficult for white to hold. Just in practice, regardless of the objective evaluation. I mean, black is very active here. Oh, and e5 was played. All right, maybe we can go back and take a look after the game. So knight e1. Levon still pushing. Ooh, 3 seconds for Artemiev there. It's very, very delicate. The problem for white is this rook just has no activity. He needs to get the rook back behind so you can target black's pieces, but easier said than done. So knight e1, Artemiev still holding the fortress. How to break through here for black? e3 check kind of gives up some squares. So h4 pushes the h pawn. Rook c2 though. King d4. The knight can no longer use this square. Rook e2, h3. Knight c2 check, king comes back. Levon again looking to get the maximum. Now king can come to f4 and there's no knight g2 check. Look at this 200 IQ play here by Levon. Okay, rook a2, Artemiev trying to activate the rook, but here comes the knight. Knight e5. Now knight g4 check is coming. Knight is coming to g4 or to f3. Rook b1 with the pin. Oh, and this is looking brutal for white. King e2, only move there. Knight g4. Now h2 is hanging. Going back into the pin. Oh, but this has to be losing. What to do for black? If e3, there's going to be rook a4 check. So he shuffles. Artemiev shuffles as well. Rook a1, getting some more squares. There's no rook c2, knight e3 check. He has to go to d2. Black find the win here. Knight e3.
Maybe knight g2. Knight g2, the knight gets out. Knight c2 now. What's Levon going to do? Goes after the h-pawn. King f2. Knight h4. Oh, and white's king is just caught. And Levon wins the first game. Artemiev flags, but the position looks completely lost here. Rook takes h2. Just unstoppable in the position. And Aronian takes this first game. Some very, very nice endgame play there. I mean, he had, again, we were saying like tiny advantage, microscopic advantage, but yeah, he finds a way to convert the full point. Really well played this last portion of the game. So he wins the first game. This is a 2-game match, which means Artemiev is going to be in a must-win situation in game 2. Let's just go back. There was a question earlier when white had played f5. If black could go rook f3 here. Yeah, it'd be a super sharp decision. Really hard to say. For example, white could go for the endgame here and then try to get like king d3 and knight d4. And it's a total race. Like, it's really hard to judge who's faster here. But yeah, that definitely would have been a very sharp option. But it's hard to calculate this, you know, when you got like a minute on your clock. So I kind of like Levon's decision to keep the rooks on. Yeah, because with the rooks on the board, the situation is a lot less concrete, and you can keep control over the situation a lot better, right? So in the knight endgame, sometimes things are just out of your control, and maybe white can just go and like snag this pawn and then give up his knight for the e-pawn and draw the game. But with the rooks on the board, of course, white's king is passive, the rook is passive, and it feels like black has more play in the position. So really fantastic technique from Levon there. He takes the first game in the grudge match. Of course, he lost the match earlier to Artemiev yesterday, so this is now a rematch. But he wins this first game as black, so he's just going to have to draw the second game as white or win in order to win this match. And all right, their game 2 is going to be starting soon. We're just going to wait for that. And okay, their game should be starting soon. Keep an eye out on this one. In the meantime, Nepo, he's waiting. He's going to be in the final tomorrow. Now, the way the final tomorrow is going to work, whoever wins this match, let's say Levon manages to avoid losing the second game and advances, he'll play Nepo in tomorrow's final. That'll be a 4-game match. If Nepo wins, he wins the tournament. If Levon wins, then he forces a 2-game elimination match, because Nepo hasn't lost a match at all yet. He's in the winner's bracket. Levon has lost a match to Artemiev earlier, but if he manages to make it back to the winner, to the final of the tournament, then of course he has to win 2 matches against Nepo to win the division and qualify for Division 1 next time. So that would definitely be a heck of a final. Nepo and Levon Aronian, they do seem like the 2 most accomplished players in the field. They felt like 2 of the favorites. Of course, Artemiev, Basimama, and these guys, they put up a heck of a fight as well. But yeah, that'll be taking place tomorrow. And here comes game 2. Vladislav Artemiev must-win situation as black. What do you do against Levon Aronian when you have to win? Levon can play d4, he can play e4, he can play anything. So here we go. This is going to be a big call for Artemiev. He really has to come up with something tricky, because Artemiev, he's not like the g6 bishop g7 kind of guy. You know, he's not like not exactly he doesn't play the King's Indian too much from what I've seen. He's a positional player. He's a grinder. So he's gonna just look for some position that he can play and just go all out. I mean, that's the strategy. But okay, hey, here we go. D6. Artemiev offering the Pirits, and Levon's like, yeah, I play E4 now. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see what you got here, buddy. No problem. And G6, just as I said, Artemiev, he's not really the King's Indian. All right, he goes for it. I love it. I love it. Let's see it. Well, okay. I mean, to be fair, these 2750 guys, I mean, come on, they can pretty much play any opening, any structure. They're gonna know a thing or two. But of course, it's not Artemiev's usual opening, right? It's not like Hikaru Nakamura. He plays these lines like all the time in online blitz, bullet. Right? He has tons of experience. Aronian also, he plays stuff like this. Carlson plays lots of stuff like this, right? Artemiev, not as much, right? He's usually D4, D5, Caro-Kann, solid kind of player. So this is outside his usual comfort zone. But of course, he shows his versatility here. When you have to play for a win, you do need to create some kind of imbalance in the structure. But Levon, he's playing a very solid line, knight f3, bishop c4. He's just going to play like queen e2, castle kingside. The thing about the Pirits, what makes it such an interesting opening, it's like, of course, as white, you have a lot of sharp options, a lot of sharp setups, like with bishop e3, castling queenside. But here, like, you just need to draw as white. So it's like, okay, well, you don't have to play super aggressively. You can just develop your pieces normally. And okay, Artemiev, he decides to go full hedgehog. Excuse me, full hippopotamus. I was worried this might happen, and there it is. He's gone full hippo, which means he's just going to put his pawns on the 6th rank. He's going to play a long game, but I mean, this is a very common way